All right, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something you use literally every single day, probably without even thinking about it. We're talking about interaction design.
So let's kick things off with a feeling I'm sure we've all had. You download that cool new app everyone's talking about, you open it up, and you're just completely lost. You're tapping around, swiping, trying to figure out how to do the most basic thing. It's super frustrating, right?
Well, that feeling of being stuck, that's not usually a bug or some random mistake. Nope, it's a classic symptom of poor interaction design. It's what happens when the design doesn't put you, the user, first. And that's exactly the problem that interaction design, or IXD, as you'll often hear it called, is meant to fix. All right, here's the game plan for today. We'll start with what bad design looks like, then clear up the whole interaction versus UX versus UI confusion. We'll hit the 5 dimensions, cover the principles for great interaction, and finish up with why this stuff really matters to you. Let's go. Okay, first things first, let's really nail down what we're talking about. So think of interaction design like this. It's all about building a smooth, sturdy bridge between you and the technology you use. It's not just about making things look pretty, it's about really understanding how people act, what they need, what drives them, and then using all that knowledge to build digital stuff where every single click, tap, or swipe just feels right. You shouldn't even have to think about it. And that's the bottom line, really. Great IXD turns a clunky tool into something that's genuinely empowering, maybe even fun to use. But bad IXD? That just leads to frustration, mistakes, and eventually, people just quitting and finding a better alternative. Okay, let's tackle the big one. You hear terms like UI and UX all the time, right? It can get super confusing. So let's untangle this and see exactly where interaction design fits into the puzzle. First up, UI, which stands for user interface. Think of the UI designer as the interior decorator. They pick the colors, the fonts, the icons. They decide how that button looks. But the interaction designer, they're more like the architect who decides what happens when you press that button. Does a menu slide out? Does a form submit? It's the look versus the flow. Now let's talk about UX, or user experience. UX is the whole shebang. It's the entire journey, the big picture. It asks, how does this entire experience feel for the user from start to finish? So IXD is a super important piece of UX. A UX researcher might find out that people are abandoning their shopping carts out of frustration. The interaction designer is the one who then zooms in and redesigns the actual checkout steps to make them smooth and painless. Okay, so how do designers actually build these interactions from the ground up? What's their blueprint? Well, they have this really cool framework they use called the 5 dimensions. It's like the anatomy of any interaction. This breaks it down perfectly. Dimension 1 is just words, the labels, the instructions. Easy enough. Dimension 2 is the visuals, the graphics, the icons, the stuff you actually see. Dimension 3 is the physical object, so the phone in your hand or the mouse you're clicking. The 4th is time. This is a cool one. It's about how things change over time, like animations, sounds, or progress bars. And finally, the 5th dimension, behavior. This is the core of it all. What do you do, and how does the system react? A truly great interaction nails all 5 of these, making them work together seamlessly.
All right, we've got the building blocks. Now let's look at the rules of the game, the core principles that guide every great interaction design.
Okay, number 1, the absolute foundation of everything is being user-centered. It sounds obvious, but it's crucial. This means every single design choice, from a tiny button to a major feature, has to start with the user's needs, wants, and limitations. It means doing the research, understanding your audience, and making sure what you build is accessible to literally everyone.
Next up, clarity and feedback. A good interaction is like a good conversation. The system needs to be clear about what you can do, and then it needs to give you feedback that it heard you. So a button that looks like you can push it, that's clarity. When you tap it and it lights up or buzzes, that's feedback. It's the system saying, got it. And then there's consistency. Our brains love predictable patterns. Consistency in design means if you learn how to do something in one part of the app, you should be able to do it the same way everywhere else. It's why the save icon is almost always a floppy disk, even though nobody uses them anymore. It's predictable, and that means we don't have to waste brain power figuring things out over and over again. Now, this is where things get really interesting, because we get into a little bit of psychology. The absolute best designs feel effortless, right? That's because they're designed to reduce your cognitive load.
That's just a fancy way of saying they make you think less. They work with how our brains are already wired.
So how do they do that? Well, they use a few well-known principles. Think of these as cheat codes for making things easy to use. You've got Fitts law, which basically says the closer and bigger a target is, the easier it is to hit. That's why that add to cart button is always huge and right where you expect it. Then there's Hicks' law. The more choices you have, the longer it takes to decide. So good design streamlines options. And Gestalt principles are all about how our brains naturally group things. Designers use this to create layouts that feel organized and just make sense. These are simple ideas, but they are incredibly powerful.
Okay, let's wrap this all up. After everything we've talked about, what's the big takeaway here? Why should you care? It really all comes down to this. Interaction design is fundamentally about the conversation between a person and a product. And just like any conversation, it can be good or bad. A good design makes that chat clear, efficient, even pleasant. A bad design makes it a jumbled, frustrating mess where nobody understands each other. And that's really the magic of it. By understanding those 5 dimensions and sticking to these core principles, designers do more than just build slick-looking apps. They are literally designing frustration out of our digital lives. So here's a little homework for you. Think about an app or website you use every single day. Now that you know the language of interaction design, where do you see it shine? And where could it be a whole lot better? You're going to start seeing this stuff everywhere, I promise. Thanks for tuning in.